Starting in 1 minute here. What's going on, Trivetta? Steph, what's happening? Dion, what's going down? Thank you guys for checking this out. Lakia, what's happening? You guys stick around for me. Ruth, what's up? Listen, you guys do me a favor. Stick around. I want you to be a part of the conversation. We are starting in 1 minute. 1 minute, you guys. I am fired up, fired up, fired up. So by all means, remember, like, comment, and share this with those who you like to join in with. Samaj, what's going on? Thank you guys so very much. We're about to start the show in 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for checking us out. Today is Tuesday. It's 7 p.m. What's going on? I want to give a special shout out to all my friends on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on all social media planes. I am fired up today. This is my chance, my opportunity to spend time with you guys to talk about the things that matter most. You know, today's show is going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be things that we all talk about, but we don't necessarily have what you consider to be a true conversation amongst truth seekers, amongst the intellectuals. But before I start, I want to encourage you guys. Not only like, not only comment, but get involved, you guys. Share this show with one of the groups that you're a part of. Hashtag this. The name of this show is going to be When to Know It's the End of the Road. When to know it's the end of the road. This show is about knowing when it's the right time to end a relationship. Dre, what's going on? Alameen, what's happening? I want to thank you guys. So check this out. I'm giving you a couple seconds. Let's get this happening right here, right now, you guys. Like, comment, share this to your favorite groups. I've got tons of groups that I'm in, so I know what it's like to be a part of a large group and really want to have something that you can have interesting dialogue with. And this, I hope, is the one show that you will do this with on a regular basis. So I will not hold off any longer. You know, I'm a life coach. I talk to a lot of people about a lot of different things. A lot of different things, you guys. And one of the things that I've noticed is one of the most pressing, one of the most concerning issues is knowing when to call it an end in a relationship. I know a lot of you have been in relationships where you have felt like maybe you have reached the end of what you thought was a really good relationship. How do you know? I mean, you talk to a friend and, you know, obviously your friend's going to tell you the things that a friend says, but they have an inherent bias, you know, and we've talked about this multiple times. Friends have multiple agendas. So sometimes it's really hard to get the kind of information that you're looking for from a friend when you want to determine whether or not a relationship has come to an end. And what kind of relationships I'm specifically talking about is a real relationship, a relationship that's an intimate relationship that involves someone you really put a lot of feelings into. And we're going to go over a few of these things because there's so many different agendas, so many different reasons, so many different thoughts behind it. I mean, talk to your mom, talk to your dad, talk to your auntie, talk to your cousin, talk to your family members. And again, there's an inherent bias. You know, some of us, what we struggle with, I think more than anything else, is we struggle with understanding what is and what isn't a good relationship. You know, special shout out to anybody right now. If you can give me a love, give me a like. Let me know what kind of relationship you're in right now. If you're in no relationship, I want to see a frown button. If you're looking for a relationship and interested, I want to see a wow button. If you're in a relationship but it's really not that strong, I want to see a like button. And if you're a committed relationship with somebody who you consider to be with for the rest of your life, let me see a love button. All right, I'll give y'all a chance to do that for me. Instagram, just give me a heart if you're in a relationship. If you're not in a relationship, don't worry about it. Okay, thank you very much. My YouTube people, I just take a comment. You can just comment, let me know. And listen to this. what I'm noticing is, first and foremost, there's a lot of us that are spending time in some serious relationships, you know, and that's great. I think that's wonderful, you know, and I see on YouTube there's a lot of people there. And yep, I see a lot of people over there too. All right, so check this out. What is a real relationship? I mean, how do you know? How do you know you're in the right relationship? How do you know what a real relationship is? The things I want to talk about are what I talk to a lot of my clients about so that they understand what really is a good relationship. Too many times, you guys, too many times we find ourselves in relationships where we don't necessarily know that it's a good relationship or a bad relationship. I mean, a good relationship is a relationship that's going to offer you the comfort of being yourself. You know, you feel accepted. You know, you feel respected for who you are. These are the things that let you know you're in a good relationship. You know, you have the comfort of respecting and accepting the person you're with. You know, that's an important thing. Too many people don't understand the value in that. You feel safe. You know, this is a word that we don't typically talk about that often, especially guys. Guys don't talk about whether they feel safe, you know, but the reality is, in a good relationship, we feel safe. You feel supported in that relationship. I don't know if you've ever been in a relationship where you actually felt that somebody had your back. Tiff, Tammy, hey, you guys, what's going on? I don't want to stop what I'm saying here. Sandino, what's happening? But I thank you guys so very much. Like, comment, share this into a group, you guys. You know, in a real relationship, not only do you feel supported, but you feel listened to. You know, I mean, how many of you have gotten in a relationship where you didn't feel like you were listened to? See, being listened to, being cared about, these are important. You know, a real relationship, you give and take on an equal basis. I've heard somebody say one time, they said, you know, a relationship is 50-50. And I'm telling you right now, that's not the case. A relationship is 100-100. Because at any given time, you're going to have to pull weight. And that's why you have to know, you have to deeply know that the person that you are with, the person that you are spending your time with, the person that you are dedicating your life to is willing to give every single thing they have. Because at any given time, it'll be you doing the same. See, you can trust and be trusted in a relationship. Too many times we think trust has, you know, there's an expectation. I hear women say this so often. I hear women say, well, men are going to do what men are going to do. Well, you know what I'm saying? That's not trust. And that's not the way to walk into a relationship. Specifically, that's not the way to walk into a relationship you plan to be in for a long period of time. Because, you know, when you bring these toxicities into the relationship, there is going to be some real problems down the road. A lot of you agreeing with me. I'm seeing it on YouTube, seeing it on social media. Yes, Facebook saying yes, 100%, 100 and 100. That's what it is, without question. You have to be able to identify and have a life, you guys. You got to have an identity and you got to have a life outside of your relationship, and that's got to be celebrated. You know, I don't know how many of y'all feel like, you know, well, ever since I've been in this relationship, you know, I've had to like, you know, not have the friends I used to have. Well, first off, if they were true friends, and if you're in a real relationship, no, I disagree completely. You should be able to maintain strong relationships with the people that were deeply concerned about your well-being, who cared about you, who are not just using a friend line in order to get, you know, into a more intimate relationship with you, but had actually qualified themselves as a real person in a real committed way to you and your happiness, no matter who you were with, as long as you were happy and they were healthy for you. You got to be able to say that. I mean, truly, let's talk about this. You've got to be able to say that the people who knew you outside of your relationship didn't feel like that relationship confounded you, or in some ways imprisoned you from the person that used to make everybody else smile. Yeah, you have to have your best, you have to have somebody who has your best interest in heart. I mean, I agree with this 100%. You guys, I want to say this again. Remember this. Like, comment, but also share this in the groups that you're involved with. Hashtag this so that people see what you're looking at. You know, one of the things that I have to say is you have to have time, you know, you have to have time to be able to spend with the quality people that are in your life, the quality people that mean something to you. See, because, a relationship cannot be so sweltering, so all-encompassing that it deprives you of who you are. And, the thing that I say is that you can navigate the conflicts in a relationship, because guess what? Conflicts happen, you guys. Conflicts happen. And you have to be able to have the confidence in knowing that a conflict is not going to negate, it's not going to sink, it's not going to destroy the entire relationship. You have to have that confidence to be able to navigate through tough waters and know that you have something that's very real. Now, some of you will say, well, what gives you the right to speak on relationships? I want to point out to you that I am a life coach. I am also a person who has a strong experience, if you will, in relationships. I've worked with people. I've worked with people both professionally and, personally with serious relationship issues. I'm also somebody who's very fortunate to be married to a wonderful, beautiful, and amazing woman for 24 years. I will point out to you that it is never always sweet. It is never always great, but it is always amazing to have somebody who's willing to work through these issues that sometimes come with the road and are willing to be a part of your long-term plans, no matter how things may seem through the interim. So, these give me the qualifications, they give me the right and the privilege to be able to talk to you about these things. Now, talk to me, you guys. I'd love to see what your thoughts are. How many of you guys are in a relationship that's over 2 years old? How many of you are in a relationship that's over 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old? How many of you are doing fine after 25? I would like you to just, put it in the comments. Let me see what you got there. Would love to hear your thoughts. Would love to see what kind of relationships the people who are listening to me right now are enduring. Because what this conversation today is about, it's about knowing when it's the right time to end a relationship. Because, as much as I believe, I used to be a pastor, I went to ministry school, and I would talk to a lot of people about never ending a marriage. I would say never end it. But see, I was young then. Woo, Sharon Darden, nobody. I know that. Hey, beautiful lady. So, listen to this. I used to tell people that all relationships were joined by God, and that all relationships must be seen to the end. But I didn't understand about relationships where people had mental disorders. I didn't understand abusive relationships. I didn't understand what it meant to be in a drug-infested relationship. I didn't understand what it meant to be in a relationship with somebody who was deeply, deeply dealing with some strong emotional issues. See, there are times where relationships, they come to an end. And as I negotiate and discuss with people, I come to the reality that there are definitely some sad, some hurtful, some painful situations where you have to end it. But you know what? I don't just allow people to tell me, well, it's over, I'm just ready to move on. See, because in my opinion, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go to bigger or better. It doesn't mean that you're going to have an opportunity to see something that was better than what you had. Thank you so much for that, Cynthia. I appreciate that. But let me say this to you so you understand. I ask questions. One of the questions that I ask are, first and foremost, when a person's going through some pain, I want to know something. What other stresses are you going through? See, too many times there is not just the information of I want to leave. It's not just the person you're with. It's oftentimes all of the different things that are going on in your life. Think about this. You can have issues going on, like, for instance, you could be going through a personal trauma. I know people who have went through a personal health issue. Maybe they found out that they had cancer. Maybe they found out they had heart disease. Maybe they found out that there was something really terrible going on in their situation. I mean, terrible, you guys. I mean, super terrible. And you know what? They decided, that's it. That's it. I'm done. I'm done. You know? And that is a real issue, guys. So, you know what? I'm going to say this to you real quick. I'm going to say that at the end of the day, that can't be the reason why you end a relationship. You know, that cannot be. You got people who they're dealing with unemployment issues. They're dealing with the pains of different traumas going on in their lives. Maybe there's, things that you can't even express, but they're intimate, they're deep. And they feel like, you know what, I'm just going to hit the reset button on everything. That's not the right thing. You guys, that's not the right thing. You cannot blame another person for the problems going on in your own life. You feel me? I mean, this is something that we have to discuss. Talk to me, you guys, about situations where you feel like it's the appropriate time. We're not talking about cheating. We'll hold cheating to the side right now because we're not going to talk about that yet. I want to talk to you more about that. But have you ever had a stress, something that happened in your life? Maybe you were about to be unemployed. Maybe you were realizing that, there was a sickness in your life, or maybe there was a situation where you felt like it was in that moment that you wanted to make a complete life change. I'm going to tell you right now, when people tell me about that, I'm very quick to tell them, listen, that is a situation where you and the person you love can work through it to get to the end, to get to the bottom, to get to the solution. We oftentimes get very selfish. Very selfish. We start thinking only about ourselves, our own happiness, our own freedom, our own problems. So, one of the things that I always ask before you terminate the entire project, what other life situations are going on? What stresses? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Realize that there are real situations that happen in everybody's life. Don't allow your situations to start to destroy the relationship you work so hard to have. One of the things that I always ask people when they tell me that they have a relationship with somebody that's not working out, I ask them, I say, and these are all clinical textbook reasons. Now, I want to talk to you guys about this. These aren't my personal opinions on what you say. These are clinical questions that I ask because it's important you know this. These are questions you should ask yourself because you will at one point really have to ask if it's worth it. The second question I asked, what is the real issue? What is really going on between you guys? We aren't getting along is vague, okay? The spark is gone. That's not real. Like I tell people, getting along is a symptom. It's a symptom of a relationship issue, okay? So my question is always, what is the real issue? What is the real issue? Some of us, we don't think about the real issues. We're too busy getting irritated by somebody. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, everything they do irks you. And one of the things that we see all the time is when we start to have these irritations, we start to minimize our ability to talk. We start to become so flustered, so caught within ourselves, that we stop wanting to talk. We stop wanting to negotiate. We stop wanting to communicate with each other. Tammy, I know you said that. It's so important to understand that. It's so important. Because if you're not going to communicate, how are you going to make things better? I always say communication is medication because you have to learn to talk to yourself. You got to learn to talk to your significant others. You got to learn to talk to the people you love. You even have to learn how to talk to the people you work with. Communication is the medication for all relationships. If you are willing to give that medication, you are actively watching it die. And the worst part of watching something die that you're connected to is that a part of you is starting to die too. And it's cancerous, y'all, because it spreads to the very next thing. So one of the things I try to talk to people about is if you don't realize that it's not just about communicating with the other person, it's about communicating with yourself. One of the things that I talk about to people is I ask them, have they ever written down a journal? Not a diary, not something all intimate. And because guys, it's very hard. And I talk to guys. I want you to know that a lot of guys are watching this program. They may not actively join the conversation, but they watch. I know a lot of guys inbox me, talk to me, YouTube, Instagram, social media of all sort. They're calling me and they tell me, they say, hey, I watched your show. And I know that, I didn't comment, but these are my comments. See, guys have to understand, and women, you have to understand too. You have to keep a journal. You have to write the things down. I mean, really write them down. Write them down. Everything, anything, all the things. If you've ever heard about somebody who's going through an employment issue, I think you know about this. The very first thing they start to do, and they're told by their legal counsel, is, I want you to write down all of the different things that you have a problem with. I want you to start to take better logs of the things that are happening at the workplace. Well, I am telling you right now, you do that in a relationship. I don't care what the relationship is. I want you to start doing it. Even if things are good, I want you to write it down. But see, I'm going to challenge you, though. I'm going to challenge you to put something with that. And that is, and then what? Okay? So think about this. When you write down something, I want you to immediately write down a second term. What's behind that? And how does that make me feel? What's behind that conversation? So that does what to me? See, these are all saying the same thing. Okay? I want you to say, okay, she's so annoying. And that does what to me? She, goes out with her friends and she doesn't even give me a call. And that does what to me? Okay, that makes me really mad. And that does what to me? Or here's a more critical question. And how does that actually start to dig into me and hurt me? Tammy says, cannot rationalize any problems with your mate. You do the pros and the cons. Listen, this is exactly what I'm talking about right here. When you don't understand you, it's very hard for you to understand other people. If you haven't broken down to yourself how the actions of other people make you feel, then you are not going to be strong. Listen to this, you guys. You're not going to be strong in fixing the problem. Even if it means moving on, you can at least move on with a corrected mindset, so that you're able to better deal with the next situation. Here's what I'm asking you. When you write down something that a person does, ask yourself, what emotion does that create in me? And why is it that this emotion is starting to build in me in this way? What does this emotion that this causes create in my life? And where does it come from? See, these are deep questions, because if you're truly moving on, I don't want you to leave the beautiful person that you can be behind. Because if you can salvage you, maybe you'll find out it's not only them. Hey, you're listening to TruthSeekrz. This is every Tuesday, 7 p.m. We talk about the things that you want to talk about. We bring these things together, you guys. I'm talking about some highly intelligent people. That's you. That's you on Facebook. That's you on Instagram. That's you on YouTube. That's you on truthseekrs.com. We get an opportunity to hear your words, listen to your thoughts, see you communicate and interact with each other. Remember this, and don't forget, I want you to like, I want you to comment. Do me a super big favor. Share this in one of your favorite groups so that we can really get this going. If you can't self-reflect, you will never know what it is that creates the issue in your life. See? It's important, you guys. See, because then you'll find out that the issues are never the surface things you think they are, but they're always deeper. We talk about this in one of the comments, one of the communications that we're going to do. We're going to have a show specifically on the belief systems that are triggered through relationships that we have. See, because then you'll start to see more of what I'm talking about here. And it's important because I really want you to get it. I want you to see what's happening in these situations. One of the things I want you to see is that there are other questions, deep questions here. Like one of the questions is the trust still there between you guys? Now watch what I just said. I said, is the trust still there? Because too often we think because we're angry, there's no trust. Issues, no matter how large, can be worked on if there's still trust. Listen to this. If you still trust somebody, even if you are not getting along with them, if you still trust, then there's an opportunity for you to work through that problem. Confidence that an individual will find what is desired from another rather than what is feared. That's what trust is. I'm going to say that again. Trust is the confidence. Listen to this. Trust is the confidence that an individual will find the desired feeling from another person rather than the fear. See, if you start to fear, if you start to feel like everything is not worth it, things are not good, you have to ask yourself, what happened to the trust? So many times we revert, we go back to our own individual self. We have been damaged. And oftentimes we go back to damage control. We go back to me against the world. We lose our confidence. We lose our sense of team. We lose our sense of hope. We forget that we're in a relationship. We start to get individualized and then we lose it. And you have to ask yourself, not in the moment of your anger, because sometimes in the moment of your anger, you need to go sit down somewhere. But in the moment of your reflection, ask yourself this question. Do I still trust this person? Can I still trust this person? See, some of you are going to understand that you can't trust somebody because you've got absolutely no understanding of what a good relationship is. We're going to have a full conversation. We're going to have a whole show on what a real healthy relationship is. We talked about relationships as it related to boundaries, but I'm going to get into some real relationships, and I agree with you 100%, Tammy. If you cannot trust yourself, how can you possibly have trust in other people? We have to work on self because self creates the wealth of a relationship. One of the things that I think we sometimes struggle with too is we don't really look for patterns. And I have to ask this question oftentimes when I'm counseling somebody. I have to ask some hard questions, you guys, because if I care about getting to the solution, I'm going to have to ask a question. Here's a question that I have to ask you guys. I ask, is this a pattern? Do you have a pattern? And they say, well, what are you talking about? Well, here's my question. Do you have a pattern where every X amount of time, maybe it's every 6 months, every 2 years, maybe whatever it is, you start feeling like you've got to leave the conversation. You start feeling like you've got to move on from the relationship. You start feeling like, well, it's kind of hit its peak. It's time to move on. I mean, because this is possible, you guys. This is very possible. And I want to know. I want to know what you think. Because if you don't understand the patterns that you bring to the relationship, you will not understand the triggered responses. You will not understand how you start to go about the relationship on a daily basis when you get to that point where it's kind of reached its peak. And we know why people have these patterns. They try to make it seem like, they're just not satisfied. But the truth of the matter is, oftentimes it's fear of rejection. It's fear of being so committed into a relationship that somebody's going to leave you there. Usually it comes from a background of feeling lost, feeling hopeless, feeling left out, abandonment. These are real. This is real serious stuff. It's a fear of commitment, and the fear of commitment is deep. It's deep because you don't know if you'll be loved after you let go of your defense. Maybe it's a fear that you try and justify because you think you're missing out. But the reality is that's a symptom. See, the greater cause is deeper than that. The greater cause is when somebody told you when you were younger you weren't good enough. Somebody told you that you weren't smart, and somebody told you that you weren't pretty. Somebody told you that you weren't man enough. Somebody told you that you didn't have what it took to be in an intelligent relationship. Somebody hurt you, and that's what scarred you into thinking that relationships only last so long. And some people, there's a fear that one day they'll be alone. So one day they'll be in a situation where they grow old by themselves. And that makes them scared. They want to go and meet new people. They want to go and experience new things. And that is what causes these people to end up being alone. Here's a question for you. And I know this is one that you probably sometimes forget when you're in the middle of a relationship, wondering if it's at the end. There's a question I always bring people back to. What was the beginning like? What was the beginning like? Were you codependent? Was this a situation where you were coming out of a relationship and you just needed somebody at the time? Or maybe you just didn't have much going on in your life, so there was an opportunity to just shack up, meet up, the wrong person came at the right time. I mean, you know what I mean? So sometimes you have to ask yourself and be truthful with it. What were you like? What was going on when you met this person? You know, are you somebody who just seems to just have a real anxious attachment style? You know, you just got to be with this person. You know, somebody knew something happening, like a new pair of shoes. I had to put them on. I had to sport them. I had to rock them. This happens, you know. Some of you have this core belief that you have to earn love. Let me tell you the scary thing about earning love. When you earn love, that's an assumption that it's something for something. Love doesn't happen like that. As long as you use love as a salary at the end of the week, that's not love, that's prostitution. See, too many of us are scared. Watch what I'm saying. Too many of us are scared to love somebody with all of the love that we have inside of us. You know? Some of us never wanted to walk the path because we were scared they was going to move on. They were going to jump into some other relationship. You were anxious. You were worried. Like, man, I better seal the deal right now. This is the best thing I have going for me. And other than this, there's nothing happening. It's sad. You know? Some of you weren't even sure who you were at the time. Some of you had never sat down and thought about who you were. I always tell people, don't go into another relationship. Go into a therapy session. You know, I've said this so often, and I want y'all to hear me. So many times I talk to people and they're clients of mine, and, you know, we speak, and I say, you know, hey, I'm a life coach. And they say, well, you know, everything seems to be going good in my life right now. And I say, this is a perfect time to talk. Because if you don't use this time right now to get through the things that you've been through, how? Listen to me. How are you going to get through the next hardship? Okay, what about when things aren't good? You must take time to know who you are. To build on separating what other people have accused you of being, what other people have sold you into thinking you were, what other people have told you that you can never be. Things that you've started to actually tell yourself. Start to move away from these things. Heal before you step into the next relationship. You know, some of you have what I call adult ADHD, and that is a borderline personality disorder. I'll be honest with you. See, that is, you know, you get hyper-focused and forget everything else. And you're so into somebody because that's just, you know, you just ADD like that. You can't think of all the other things you had going on. It's just all in, all in, all in. It's the kind of person you are. Ask yourself. Because if you had that kind of person in your life before, say that was your significant other, you know, or the person who you're very, very intimate with, they were just so ADD. I mean, just so ADD that they just got so in tune with you that you thought, oh, it's love, it's love. This person is like head over heels. Head over heels is a little scary. Okay? We call that a disorder. Because a person should be able to be rationally concerned with you without throwing away every other thing in their life. See, you see this in young relationships often, but you know the truth is, and it happens to people who've been in long-term relationships who jump out of a relationship and get back into a new one. They forget most of the things that they were told because now they're kind of on their own. If a person is so head over heels that all they can think about is you, it's really important that you walk slow in that situation, because that person might be telling you that they've got a serious personality disorder and that they have never really looked at utilizing this relationship in the movie of their entire life. See, when you put a relationship back into the real world, it's got to actually fit with a normal life. And so these ADHD relationships where a person's just head over heels, you start looking at them on Facebook, start seeing them on all the Instagram pictures, all you see is them. It's love, 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 love. They're not posting about their favorite bakery no more. They're not posting about other things. It's all this. That's scary, you guys. If you've got a friend who's doing that, it's going to be hard for you to talk to that person because a lot of times they have no idea what they're doing. It's tough, y'all. It's tough. You know, and then you have people who, they're just an addict. They're just a love addict. You know what I mean? They're not ADHD. They just need to be in love. They just are addicted to the next great relationship. See, those people See, that comes back. Remember that. That comes back to a belief system. A belief system that you're nothing without somebody else. If you don't have somebody screaming till the cows come home about how wonderful you are, and if they can't tell you how deeply in love they are, I mean, making love sound like a love song. See, these are the people who are addicted to the next big love affair. These are the people who end up, they cheat in life. They do all these different things because in their minds, it has to be this superb, almost gourmet, unrealistic fairy tale type lifestyle. And that's really scary, And a lot of us, come on, be honest. A lot of us, we play this thing by ear. We don't really know what a healthy relationship is. And that's why I speak to people when they're doing well, so that when things go bad, they have a better grasp of what's actually happening. Because very rarely you can say with all honesty, hey, this was the right person for me, And that's great, but it doesn't happen often, You have to ask yourself before you move on in a relationship, from where you're standing at this moment. I ask them, I say, okay, so right now today, how much in this relationship was upfront and honest? How much was being held back from you? Because a lot of times that's what creates the problems in a relationship. If your partner's hiding things and then they slowly leak out a big truth. It's confusing. It's y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm going to hit a couple things right now. It's going to tell you about it. Like, for instance, they have a child. I mean, some of us, we didn't know. We didn't know they had a child. We didn't know that the child was brand new born, meaning it was going to be constantly having interactions with the other person. We didn't know because at the time it wasn't something that we discussed because maybe we were so stuck on who we were, or maybe they flat out lied. Maybe you didn't know that it was their intention to move their parents in. It doesn't have to be dirty and down like that. It can be something very simple. Maybe they were moving their parents in. Or maybe it was something dirty. Maybe the fact that they were still in a relationship that had kind of sputtered out and it wasn't really, and now you're into this relationship now, you've been there for a while. And they still working with feelings. I'm going to tell you something a lot of people don't know. What if you realize that they got some real financial issues? They don't manage money well, and they're in debt. Bad credit, bad work history. You saw them when they were doing good, but they keep yo-yoing up and down. And now you can't really consider them as a life partner because you just don't trust them as adult, business-minded people. That's something, and it really hurts because it's something where you say to yourself, man, if I can't trust this person, now how do I make it happen? Or maybe it's another thing. Maybe you can never travel with them because they got criminal offenses that stop them from being able to get visas in other countries. These things happen. So I ask people, I say, from where you stand, before you walk out the door, I want to know how clear was your awareness at the time? Because that is sometimes a reason, y'all. It really is. Sometimes they have bad health. Sometimes they got some real health issues and they're not telling you about them. You guys know what I'm talking about. Because right now today, people think that all they got to do is have one thing going on and forget everything else. And I'm telling you, as you get to know people, as you get to understand reality, health is important. Maybe you find out this person just doesn't have the same values that you have. And you don't share these values anymore. You really thought you did. But these are some of the things where you really start to see a mismatch, where you really start to see problems in a relationship. Watch what I'm saying here. Here's a value situation. First let's talk about this. So what happens when somebody shares different values than you do? It really causes a lot of issues. I mean, a lot of issues. Say a particular person, they don't like kids. And you say to yourself, wow, what normal, functional-minded person doesn't like kids? Maybe they don't like church. And you're thinking to yourself, well, I always kind of thought about being in a spiritual walk. And maybe some of these things, or maybe they just they don't like to be good neighbors. They don't like to be good citizens. Maybe they just don't like to be the things that you value. You know, their concerns, their cares are different. Because if you don't understand that those are real reasons to walk away from a relationship, man, I'm going to tell you, all you have to be is in one of these situations where, you know, you pride yourself on being 10 minutes early and they pride themselves on getting there when they get there. See, I know y'all know what I'm talking about. There's always a person in a relationship who does not respect the things that mean something to you. They don't understand that these are true personal values. And these are things that we talk about. A lot of people, when I get the journals back, I realize that a lot of their anger, a lot of their angst is based on just a complete difference in personal values, you know? And it could be something simple like this, like they never get a promotion at work. You ask, baby, why don't you ever, ask for a promotion? Well, if they like me, they'll give me one. And you're saying to yourself, like, hold on now. That goes against everything that I believe. I mean, how are we going to raise our children if you don't believe that you have to be assertive? Or maybe this person's saying, I'm not somebody who wants to live in a toxic work environment. And you say, well you gotta demand better to get better. Squeakiest wheel gets the most oil. And maybe this bothers you. See, these are the things that I've noticed really create some serious problems in a relationship. I mean, serious problems, y'all. This ain't no small thing. These are real things in a relationship, So it ultimately becomes you guys just aren't growing in the right direction. You're not growing in the same direction. You're not building the same path together. And that's where a problem is. The point of a relationship is to grow together. But if one partner doesn't want to, or they want to take a vastly different direction, it really could signal an end. And it's sad because, when you're listening to somebody and you're hearing this and you're trying to counsel them, and remember, my firm belief is that majority of the relationships that we're in, the majority of the people that we love, the majority of the time that we sacrifice with somebody is worth salvaging. So I believe this. I believe it wholeheartedly. I believe that people they experience turbulence like an air flight. If every single flight they just went down and landed the minute there was a little bit of turbulence in the air, you would never get to the destination you chose. So in my opinion, turbulence does not mean it's a terrible flight. It just means that there were some terrible times on an otherwise wonderful flight. So I hope, you understand. See, when you are going in a different direction, that really, really means something. Like for instance, you got somebody who says, I always want to volunteer with the homeless. I always wanted to do something to give back. And the other person's like, well, I expected you to spend all of the time that you were doing, that you weren't at work. I expected you to spend that time with me. I had plans. I had relationship goals. I had all these different things. And you're like, well, hold on. Well, I thought it meant something to you to see me care in this community. I only want you to care for me. See, these are where you start to see people, they don't grow in the same direction. But you know where it comes out, where it really comes out? It comes out when there's a real life-changing moment. Maybe when you find out you're sick. Maybe when you discover that something you never thought could happen in your life has happened. Maybe there was a tragedy. Maybe there was trauma. It's in those moments you really get to see who you're dealing with. I know a person, I love this person. Well, when they experienced a serious trauma in their life, what happened was they got really religious. They got very spiritual. They got very connected with a spiritual force that allowed them to have the reserve to make it through. Now, this was a person who you wouldn't normally say, well, that's a religious person. You just say, wow, this person really, really is on fire for God. I mean, it's like, and the person they with is like, hold on now, what does it mean? I like to get drunk and kick it with the buddies, and talk a little crazy, and now, you got me feeling all insecure, self, I don't feel like this was the person I was with. So sometimes it's in these moments of emotional concern, emotional change, emotional trauma that you find something that really separates you. And you're like, well, what do I do? What do I do here? Because it's in that moment that you may realize this person's not ready for the real you. And because they're not ready for the real you, you have to make a question become a purposeful solution. So it's in that moment where you say, am I in the right situation? Am I fighting for the right cause here? That's a real deal. That's a real deal, you know? Because so many of us, we don't know ourselves until we experience something. But you also don't know the person you are with until they watch you experience it. You know, maybe somebody who you love, maybe it was your grandma, was always in church. She passed away. She died. And you say, man, the church ain't going to miss somebody in my family. I'm going to be that person. I'm going to step up. You know? Oh, that's right. Hey, listen here. Everybody is not meant to go where God is taking you. Because sometimes if you're in a relationship that isn't the relationship you should be in, it's moments like this that the reality will unfurl. And that is what it is. It's knowing that you have the right person, because at some point you're going to have to understand that you was in a relationship that was for right now. And if that's the case, you're going to have to move towards happiness and accept that your solution is not in that relationship. You know? And it's tough, man, because these things happen, and they happen to really great people. You know, it could be deeply painful when something beyond your control has changed your shared life. But we can only honestly choose the future we know we are actually capable of living. It's important to understand that. Because to thine own self, you must be true. Because if you can be true to you, you can be true to the other person. Because you and your truth will be accepted by the true person who should be in your life. You know, and that brings me to what I'm saying here. Are you able to be yourself? How many of you guys know for a fact that you're not able to be yourself? You're not able to act goofy when you want to be goofy. You're not able to act clueless when you want to be clueless. You're not able to act scared when you want to be scared. You're always worried about being judged. Always worried about somebody, condemning you for being who you are. Maybe you just somebody who likes to sing, likes to just smile, likes to dance, likes to give the homeless people $1 when you see them on it, and they're always constantly being criticized. You know, it's so important to know that you're with somebody who loves you, respects you for being you. You know? I sometimes hear somebody tell me, the old blues song, the thrill is gone. So many times I hear that, I hear the thrill is gone. Maybe there's no longer a sexual attraction. Maybe you feel like this person is no longer sexually attractive to you. But you're in a relationship where there's never was an attraction. You're going to know it. See, some people get into a relationship, they're not all that sexually attracted with somebody. Maybe there's other attractions that they have, Maybe there's an attraction they have that is kind of there, like, I'm sure I can be sexually, stimulated by this person. Yeah, I talk about this with people, man. This is shocking. Listen to this. This is really shocking. I talked to a woman one time that said she was never sexually attracted. Never sexually attracted to a man. I've talked to men who say the same thing. I've talked to men who said, I used to be sexually attracted to her, but she looks different now. I hear men who say, she doesn't take her physical appearance seriously. I've heard women who say the same thing. Man, he used to look really good. We used to go work out together. Now he don't do nothing but sit on the couch and play video games. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, are you still sexually attracted? Because if you're not sexually attracted, but you still love that person, I'm going to tell you something that's going to hurt your feelings. Maybe you guys are just friends. How about that? Maybe you have gotten into this relationship where you're no longer intimately desirable, but you love each other. So what you really have become is friends. How do you know that? Just go back and check your sex history. Check your sex history. Tell me about how many times you have an enjoyable sexual encounter Because it's within that conversation that we have to have an honest truth. And this is what I talk to people about. And some of them, they're like, wow. Because one thing to have sex, people can have sex all the time. People have sex with prostitutes. Really don't matter. Most prostitutes aren't that attractive to that person. But sexual activity is a function of life. So you can have sex with somebody but not be attracted. Do you understand what I'm saying? So what I'm saying to you is, how intimate are you in your sexual relationship with this person? Because if there is no sexual attraction, then you maybe you're in a friendship. You're not in a real relationship. I know a woman who had a relationship issue, and in her childhood she was raped, and because she was raped, she had a trigger moment. It was a trigger moment where she saw a guy in the store that reminded her of the guy who raped her, and then she couldn't have sex. Couldn't have it. Now, the guy who she was with was very, very close and loved her and wanted to be a part of her life. But it made her realize that she wasn't even sexually interested in this guy either. So as we talked about it, we broke this down and really got to understand things more. The reality is that she had really underlying issues where sexual intercourse was a personal thing. It wasn't really about sharing. And so, she wasn't able to do that. So there's some times where there's really, really traumatic issues. But there's other times where, guess what? The person just isn't that sexually interested. They're just not all that interested in you. And you may be the person who's not that sexually interested in them. If you're in that relationship, I hope you get out. Because it's hard for you to find a sexual relationship when you've left it, lost it, and no longer are interested in it. But guys, this brings me to my last one. And my last one is different than all of them. And my last one is the number one reason why I will never argue with somebody who's ready to leave. And that is it abusive? Some of you think abusive means that you get beat up. And I'm here to tell you that's not the case. That's not the case at all. See, abusive means that you feel so hurt, so intimidated, so bullied, so disrespected, so manipulated, so used. It's abuse. It's an abuse of a love. It's an abuse of a friendship. It's an abuse of a relationship that was supposed to be intimate. And then there is the physical abuse. And if you're in a physically abusive relationship, and this is for men and women, because let me tell you something. You don't have to be able to beat somebody's butt in order for them to want to fight you and hurt you. I'm going to tell you this and understand this. I've never seen a relationship where abuse was a part of it and it went away. And I know a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people. I've done this work for a long time. Abuse is a sickness that we have not learned to remedy. There's absolutely no counseling. There's absolutely no therapy. There's absolutely no proven way to stop somebody from abusing somebody else. It is a personal desire that is not about being upset with someone. It's about having deep traumatic issues. And I am sorry. I will never tell somebody, stay in that relationship. I will say, get out. I will say, get out yesterday. I'll say, get out, call the police, call a counselor, call who you can. Get out of that relationship. If you know somebody who's being hurt, you have to find a way to get them out. Now, don't be no fool and get hurt yourself. And don't be no fool to think that somebody isn't going to think somehow that they should be in that relationship. Because remember, the most abusive relationships are relationships that are built around codependency. And it's painful, y'all. I've seen it. I've seen it too many times. I pray for these people. And I've been around some of the most amazing people in the world. Let me tell you this. I've been around people who were like so awesome, so cool, so nice. And then they go home and beat their significant other. I've been around somebody who's smiley faced, be the first one to buy you a drink at the bar and say some of the most painful, hurtful things to the person they're supposed to love. And you know what I know? I know that that is what you call repeat behavior. Learned behavior. Trauma that happened and now they can't escape it. They create a world based on it. And you know what happens when you were the victim of that as a child? You start to look for those situations when you get older. This is one of the reasons why I tell people it's not that smart of a thing to beat your children. There's times in life where you may have to spank them, but you never have to beat them. You never have to mistreat them. You never have to talk bad to them, talk dirty to them, talk disrespectful to them, talk to them in a way that you can't tolerate. Never use your authority to be abusive, because what you are doing is creating tomorrow's abusive children, tomorrow's abusive adults, tomorrow's criminals. These are the things that I talk to people about. And after I've had this conversation with them, after we've looked over their journeys, after we've really, really dug deep into what the real issues are, this is when I ask them, are you ready? Are you ready to start? Or are you ready to end? It's your choice. Not my choice, not God's choice, not anybody's choice. Because nobody wants to see you less than happy. But when you make a decision, know that it was a thorough, well thought out, solid, spiritual, soulful, cognitive decision that really, really reflected what your true mind thought, not just what your emotions. Hey, you guys. This your boy Tone Duncan. This was a Tuesday TruthSeekrz show. I'm so thankful for all of your interactions on Instagram. I loved your comments on Facebook. Love what you had to say on YouTube. Thank you so much for the comments. All of you guys, I am looking forward to exciting shows coming up. This your boy Tone Duncan. Every Tuesday, 7 p.m. TruthSeekrz. Peace.